Life is precious and different for everyone. However, there is one constant phenomenon: death. When researching this phenomenon, we use the term all-cause mortality, which infers death by any and all causes.
Let's just take a quick glance at what the studies say about how exercise can reduce your risk for all-cause mortality or just dying in general. Mean average of all the different studies that we looked at said that exercise can reduce your risk of death by 41%. Compared to the non-obese active person, an obese but active person has a 21% higher risk of all-cause mortality. But a non-obese and sedentary or non-active person has a 53% higher risk of all-cause mortality. So you have a lower risk of death if you have a high BMI and are active than if you have a low BMI and are inactive. All right, well, what about this? Can I just start exercising later in life? I'm a little bit busy right now. Well, in a study done by Duck and Associates, they found that compared to those that never ran in their lives, those that began and kept running for their whole lives had a risk reduction of 30% in their risk for all-cause mortality. But those that only became runners later in life had a 13% risk reduction. That's a 17% difference. So to be able to get these amazing reductions in your risk for death, what exactly do you have to do? How often, how hard, how long, and what type of activity are we going to do? We're going to talk about. In a study done by Peter Schnorr and Associates, they found that compared to the person that doesn't run at all during the week, someone who does once a week has a 60% lower risk of death by any cause, and someone that runs 2 to 3 times per week also has a 60% lower risk of all-cause mortality. But check this out. Someone that runs more than that actually has a 24% higher risk of death, of all-cause mortality. And Duck and Associates found similar results in that running 1 to 2 times per week had a drastic reduction in your risk of all-cause mortality, but running any more than that only slightly increased your risk for all-cause mortality. So in that same study done by Schnorr, they found that running less than an hour per week reduced your risk of all-cause mortality by 32%, 1 to 2.5 hours a week by 42%, and 2.5 to 4 hours per week by 21%. And they also found that greater than that reduced your risk by only 14%. So it didn't really increase it. It wasn't a linear relationship, more like it was a U-shape with frequency on the x-axis, risk on the y, and the more or less you ran, that was kind of the sweet spot in the middle. You wanted to run 1 to 2.5 hours per week for the highest risk reduction in all-cause mortality. When talking about mode or type of training, Tedesco and Associates found that those that trained with weights for about 30 minutes per week saw a 23% risk reduction for all-cause mortality. They also looked at other modes, and they found that running for an hour more per week reduced your risk by 42%, rowing for an hour more per week reduced by 18%, and brisk walking reduced your risk for all-cause mortality also by 18%. So how intense should your exercises be? In a representative study by Jihu and Associates, they looked at the exercise patterns of different people and found that compared to people that barely did anything during the day, those that had moderate exercise, like walking or light gardening, had a 36% risk reduction in all-cause mortality, and those that did vigorous exercise, like running, jogging, and swimming, actually saw a 47% risk reduction, so a little bit of a difference there. So, to reduce your risk of death by about 41% and add 5 to 6 years on your life and just have better quality life, exercise just 1 to 3 times per week. At least once. Do it for about 30 minutes at a moderate to vigorous intensity. Exercise works.